today is going to be interesting. It's all about launching an e-commerce business. And I know we've got some expertise on stage here today. We've got yourself, Jeff, who runs paw.com, the CMO. You've got Michelle, who runs Meowingtons. I've invested in a number of e-commerce companies, including those companies and Hip Optical as well. So we're deep in the mud on these e-commerce companies. We have really been working it for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think what's going to make today really special is that we have the podcaster himself, the rise of the micro brands, Lunch with Norm, probably one of the top e-commerce podcasters out there who's joined us right now. Welcome, Norm, to the show.
Hey, Colin, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to hearing a lot, getting a lot of your wisdom today. I know you've spoken to hundreds of entrepreneurs. You've probably done about, how many podcasts do you think you've done on that show? About 50, 60, 70? I don't know.
No, like on Lunch with Norm, just by itself, there's over 250.
250 podcasts. So if you really are serious about e-commerce, you might want to check out his podcast. How would somebody do that? They just type in Lunch with Norm, Rise of the Micro Brands. Like, how would they find that podcast?
Yeah, it's everywhere. We've promoted it on all social media. You can check out the website Lunch with Norm. It has all the podcasts there. But if you really want to hear it and go live, it's Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon Eastern Standard Time, and you can hear it on Facebook, our Facebook group, through LinkedIn. It's pretty much everywhere, and it's on every available podcast platform.
Okay, awesome. And obviously it's at noon because it's Lunch with Norm. So
Exactly.
today I thought we could cover sort of 5 topics. And if you're in the audience and you run an e-commerce company or you're thinking of launching an e-commerce company, please raise your hand. This is all about all of us connecting together and talking about different issues in business. And today we're talking about e-commerce. I thought we could break it up, and we'll start with the people on stage here, and then we'll definitely bring in as many people as we can today on stage. But I thought we could talk about 5 different areas. First, what are the types of businesses that if you've never launched an e-commerce business, what are the types of businesses that you think that people can launch? That's going to be my first question. Okay, so get ready if you're in the audience. Again, raise your hand and come and talk about that. The second is, what kind of platform? Is it Shopify, Etsy, Amazon? Let's try to demystify the process of setting up that store using a platform. If you want to build or design products, how could you find a manufacturer in the United States or China or elsewhere? If you want to build traffic or build a community to sell your e-commerce products or sell your products on your e-commerce site, how do you do that? And I know we've got some experts here today on stage. And lastly, marketing. What are the key things that you can do to market or drive those sales for your website? If you build it, will they come? Well, pretty much in e-commerce, that's not the case. If you build it, you got to find a way to market it. So we're going to kick it off with that first question. Just going around here, we're going to start with you, Michelle. What are the types of businesses that an entrepreneur or a startup can launch with respect to e-commerce? Like, just give us an idea.
Hey there. Yeah, this is a great topic and obviously very timely for today's world. So, tips that I would have are really doing your research to make sure that you can bring something to the market that has a little bit of a unique value proposition. I would say it does not need to be an innovation, although innovations are fine. That takes a lot longer. But what are the little trends? What are the little micro trends that you might be able to capitalize on? Where are others even getting traction? What segment are they getting traction? But for myself, I would say while you're looking at that, also look at the bigger picture of, are you able to actually get product? That's a really obviously big issue these days. Are you able to get product so that you can at least do a test before you start trying to scale? That seems to be the harder thing to do right now. But I would say we here at Meowingtons are cautiously optimistic that will be ending soon as supply chain management issues start to wane. So that is our suggestion, is to do your research, and it's not just what people want or need, but it's also, can you actually get the product? Thank you.
All right, great. Is there a type of product that you sell at Meowington's that would be applicable in other industries?
In other
So for
industries.
instance, I know you do cat beds, I know you do cat toys, I know you do other things like that. And are there other products that people could sell, like fashion or jewelry in other verticals? Or is it just cats?
Actually, for us, we do sell a lot of fashion slash human items. It really depends on, for us, we're trying to address a specific vertical, which are folks that have cats and love cats. Yeah, of course, you really need to understand what people in that demographic, what people are in that segment, what they like. And for us, we know it's a little bit different than dogs, other than the obvious. But for example, cat folks, they actually really like to wear things and buy things that have cat humor or cat decorations. So, knowing that and understanding our customer, it influences, as you're asking, obviously the product mix, but it also very much influences how we market. So it's not just about cats for us, because we know that people have cats actually like to wear, for example, t-shirts, funny t-shirts that have little sayings about cats. They like to have mugs that have funny sayings about cats. It's really more of a lifestyle for them, and it's something that they're proud to identify with, and it's a great conversation point for them.
So let me ask the question a little differently to you, Norm. If someone has a hobby, and I don't know what that hobby is, maybe it could be knitting, it could be bookbinding, I don't know what it is. Can they actually create a store and sell their products?
Yeah, if you've got a hobby, one of the things I would do is, okay, let's say you're into cooking, or yeah, let's use cooking. I would expand the hobby because you want to see what's sellable. Depending on what you like to sell or what your hobby is, I check out like a Pinterest or an Etsy and see what is unique, because Michelle said definitely do not want to have a Me Too product. It's got to be a little bit different. And that doesn't mean that you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on molds. It could be a material that's different. It could be a lot of different things, but I would not go out with a Me Too product. But going out there with a hobby, let's say you're into cooking, you could get into knives. You can get into Damascus steel knives. You can get into paring knives. You can go into different types of butcher knives, or you can expand the brand. The other thing, like when you're looking to get into a product or into an e-commerce store or selling on Amazon, is you want to make sure that your brand is expandable, that you have breadth. So if I'm getting into cooking items, so knives, that you're not just stopped there. So I've seen a lot of that. Probably a fairly common mistakes is that somebody brands a product that's for cooking, and then their next product they bring out is in pets. It doesn't make sense. But you could bring out, it could be a spice, or it could be another type, it could be a cutting board or something like that. So you've got to think ahead about where your hobby's going to lead you to. And you have to make sure that you do competitive analysis. And it could be Amazon's probably the perfect place to do it, but you can also go, and I love this, going to Pinterest and seeing what's really being creative, what's selling out there, what are the artsy fartsy kind of things, and then going over to Etsy and doing the exact same thing. You can get really good ideas for product ideas, and even better, the packaging, because then it comes down to perceived value.
Right. So if you love an industry, say the pet industry, which we do on this stage, going to the trade show for pet and pet products and really learning what's out there can sometimes stimulate or give you ideas that can lead you to building or designing a product that's unique and different that you can now sell in the marketplace. And I'm going to come back right back to you, Norm. How important is being unique and different?
It's 100%. You can go out there and you can sell, and this happens. I see it on Amazon all the time, where somebody goes out, they go to Alibaba, they contact a supplier, and all of a sudden you've got 7 plastic shoe stretchers that are all crappy that are being sold from the same manufacturer with their images. So you don't even, there's no, not even a change there. I'll give you a great example, Colin. I did this for a client once where I was looking at a plastic shoe stretcher. They were awful. I found 7 of them on Amazon, and the highest rating I saw was 3.5. So they were all getting the same crappy plastic, the same crappy reviews. So you can take that and turn it. Okay, what does it take to be different? Could I use a different plastic, a different color, a different material? Maybe I turn that into wood. They were talking about the spring. Maybe I turn that into a titanium spring. The other thing that you can do is I'm going to go back to the wood because it actually the answer was there. Somebody had come out with a wood shoe stretcher. Now the one was selling, believe it or not, $3,500 a month. The wood one that we were looking at was $3 more, and it was selling $100,000 a month. And there was no comp. Now it's saturated, but there was no competition at that time. And believe it or not, the client, because, and this is another thing, you have to separate emotion. They were so tied up on this bloody plastic shoe stretcher that they missed going after where the money was. Changing things is very important. Knowing the country to go to is very important. And the other thing that's a big issue right now, you can make all the changes that you want, but you better check with the insurance company to make sure that you have the proper risk tolerance. And I'll give you an example with that as well. It might be that plastic shoe stretcher is so crappy that it breaks in your hand and you get cut. Topicals, you might want to research insurance with topicals or even pets. This, if somebody gets hurt with, let's say it's rawhide, and your dog chokes, people are going to come after you, and your insurance, you better check out the insurance, and you have to have insurance nowadays as well. But those are some things that, if you take a look, if you change the Me Too product, one of the other things that are changing right now, people are coming back to North America, but they're changing. Let's say you've got a plastic product or a product that might be made out of wood overseas. They're bringing it back into the U.S. or into Mexico, and they're finding more automation, which sometimes brings down the cost. And I can tell you an example that just happened where it was a wood product, and then we made the suggestion of creating a resin product, which the client saved $30 just by changing it, and it actually made it a better product.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. Edna, we're just right now talking about ideas for an ecom business. Any thoughts?
Ideas for an ecom business. Man, this is so not my space, but I saw the subject matter, wanted to come in. I think if we were looking and what's trending, the pet space is so strong, and there's this one little gadget that is in the home space as well, and it's like pillows. And I saw it the other day, and I thought that was pretty incredible because it had a little cooling factor. And with power shortages in a lot of places, a lot of folks are without heat at night. And so I thought it was pretty clever. Maybe it's a silly thing, but it's something that would probably be relatively simple to make and get out there and mass produce.
Yeah, I know that you
Yourself.
do a lot of solar. Do you actually do any e-commerce, or are you more of a wholesaler of the solar?
I've thought about doing that and maybe setting up a shop because a lot of people are looking into solar. And for me, it would be really easy to put together packages and then drop ship via Amazon. But you still have the permit component, and you've got the design element component, and then you have the installation component. So I would have to be able to like sell that separately and turnkey, and then get them financed if
Well,
they
it's
need the.
it's interesting because I know my contractor just bought some products through eBay. So we're going to talk about platforms in a minute. Before we do that, though, Marcia, you are the idea queen. You always seem to come up with new ideas, new innovative cool e-commerce products. Can you share with the audience today what you think are the best types of products, that someone at home, sitting at home right now, could think of and launch on an e-commerce site?
Happy Friday, everyone, and thank you for inviting me up. My ideas come from problems I need solved. If I have a problem in my life, I think of a product that will solve my problem, and I then check it out with some of my friends who I believe might have the same problem. And if they like it, then I take it a little farther, put together a formal focus group. And for me, products that make sense are products that solve problems that a lot of people have.
I love that. I love what you did with chalk. Can you just tell us your sidewalk chalk story?
Oh gosh, that was back in the 1970s. Again, my daughter was young, and I didn't let my children have battery toys because I knew they were smart and I wanted them to use their brain, their natural battery. And so they like to play with creative art products, and the only chalk available back then were the little tiny thin blackboard sticks out of China that were dusty, dirty, they stained, they were full of lead, they didn't last, they broke. So I spent the summer of 1978 researching how to make chalk. I didn't have any idea how to make it, but I knew I wanted my daughter to have better than that junk out of China. And I came up with this phenomenal formulation. I started selling it at craft fairs, and people loved it. That's where I did all my initial pricing, all my packaging, put all of it was I learned by watching consumer behavior at a craft fair. I don't even know how many craft fairs they still have, but it is a fabulous way to see firsthand if a consumer picks it up and says, "How much is this?" and you say it's $3 and they say, "I'll take 5." Well, you maybe can charge $4. If they pick it up and ask how much it is and you say it's $4 and they put it back down, well, then maybe it's a little bit too expensive. I know that's very rudimentary, but that's where I did my initial focus group. And then my son had the idea back then, 1980, that Walmart said they only bought American products. Now, this is when Walmart had 66 stores. And so I started a 46-day in a row, precisely at 9 a.m. phone call to Walmart to see if they would carry our chalk. On the 46th morning, I reached the buyer. He said, "I can see you at 11 o'clock." He was at a brand new distribution center about an hour from my home. So I met him, and that started a 7-store test, turned into a 14-store test, turned into a 21-store test, turned into nationwide, all 66 stores. So it started out very humbly, but we did grow to 72% global market share with 5 factories making chalk around the clock.
Chalk around the clock. I like what you said, craft fairs, and that's sort of our second question around the whole e-commerce site or the whole e-commerce company is how do what kind of platform? And I think you probably brought up the very first one, which is simply just craft fairs or going to a fair and seeing if there's market demand. We're gonna go popcorn style here. I'm not hope that anyone here, especially you, Norm, who's got a lot of expertise in this area, can talk to us about this. But I've got an idea. I built it. I now want to launch it. Marcia said, let's start with the craft or the flea market or whatever it is, and let's prove that concept. What else is there? Where else can I actually sell my products? And how hard is it to get it onto a Shopify or an Amazon? Norm, again, I'm going to kick it off to you.
Okay, thanks. It's not hard, but there's a huge difference. So if you go to a Shopify platform, you have to find your demographic, or you might know your demographic, but you've got to get that external traffic to come over to the site. If you go to an Amazon style platform or a Walmart platform, Amazon's still king, but it's a captivated audience. It's the largest search engine out there for people wanting to buy. So you've got everybody there. The unfortunate part is you've also got your competitors there. So as long as you And this is very important. And there's courses out there that you can take, you can learn from YouTube, but you have to understand the beast. And once you understand the beast, you can take advantage of it and have a proper optimized listing. Have it where people in the search, like when everything comes up in the search engine, that on the search page or on the results page, your product stands out, that your price is optimized. So that's really important. The perception of your product. So there's all sorts of things that you can do on Amazon. Another quick tip is just you don't have to go after the main keywords. Let's say it's bully sticks. A bully sticks is a $20 click. But if you go natural bully sticks for dogs, that might be a $3 click, and you could go out and launch on that. But on Amazon, you have to be able to, like on a platform, they have a built-in PPC platform. They have a social media platform built in. And if you know how to use it, you can build a community around your brand. You can drive external traffic to Amazon, and they'll reward you with 10% off the referral fee. And there's all sorts of things that you can do if if your brand registered. So that's just if you have a trademark and you register it with Amazon. Walmart is coming up. They're doing very similar. I think you're going to see them explode over the next 2 years. When you go over to eBay, eBay's is really doing a great job trying to get away from the horrible image that they had. I think everybody that's on eComm, at least my age, was selling at one point on eBay. And then it was very tough and they went away from what they were doing. And now they're trying to build brands again, which is really cool. Shopify, there is so much you can do with Shopify, with creative, with the web pages, with just the apps. And what I like about Shopify is that you have this app marketplace, which will allow you to build out your store, be as creative as you want, get the abandoned carts, have the pop-ups, do all of that. And I don't know if any of the listeners are realize, but there's an app that you could just seamlessly integrate with Walmart. So now you can have your Walmart store tied into your Shopify store. So there's all these different platforms, and we can't forget about Etsy. I know people now that are selling more on Etsy than they're selling on Amazon. Now this is more of their print on demand side, but Etsy is a marketplace that you can kill it. And anyways, I don't want to take up all the time. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, Jeff, I know you're the CMO at paw.com, sort of a bigger e-commerce company. Any thoughts on the platform that you use, Shopify?
Yeah, so we're our Shopify Plus site with paw.com, and that's been very effective for us because it's highly scalable. You can customize it, so we don't use a standard template. We actually have a dev team that has created a custom website built upon Shopify Plus for us. So it's been a very good platform. It's continuing to grow and add new features and capabilities, which we like. So the platform is important in that regard. But I think one of the things that you mentioned earlier, Colin, that struck me and Norm reinforced it is one of the things that we have to think of as an e-commerce brand, and we're in the pet space, is once you establish yourself for any given product, the goal then is to really, you don't want to start from square one with every new product. So as I think Norm was mentioning earlier, you don't want to start by selling a widget for the kitchen and then your next product is something for the bedroom and you're all over the place. Because if you go through the hard work, and it is hard work to build a following, to drive to your site, to get a base of customers, it's a lot easier to grow products that will appeal to those same customers and customers like them versus starting over from square one in terms of your audience with every new product you introduce. So I don't think you want to be a Walmart on day one and have products in lots of different verticals. I think you want to pick a vertical that you have some interest in, like, then find products within that vertical that solve a problem, as Marcia said, and then try to stay in that lane, because as you build an audience and customers and community, if you're staying in that vertical, you're more likely to be developing new products that you can sell to existing customers at the same time as you bring in new customers. So I think having a vertical like we have the pet space, and along those lines, just a little bit of the paw.com story. When the company was started, it was called Treat a Dog. It was treatadog.com, and we were on Shopify. But as Treat a Dog, we were somewhat limited to dog products. So when we had the opportunity to acquire the domain name paw.com and rebrand the company as paw.com, it opened up more flexibility for us to be in the pet space and not just the dog space. So you want to think about those things too when you're naming your e-commerce business. If you name it too narrow, you may be limiting the products you can go into. You want to think into the future, think what you want to be 2 or 3 years down the pike, and make sure that your naming and your product strategy fit. Hopefully that's helpful.
Absolutely. And I think this idea of a logical extension, a logical upgrade, if you can somehow, if you create a beachhead with your core product, your first product, and you succeed at it, having something logical that connects I think that is a tried and true strategy. I've seen that happen at paw.com and I've seen it at Meowingtons as well. I know we have Christian on the stage. Christian, do you have a question or a thought or an e-commerce experience that you could share with us?
Hi, thanks for having me and thanks for creating this room. Yeah, I'm not sure if this counts as e-commerce, but I've been selling like handmade lawn games like cornhole on Instagram and Facebook Marketplace. That's basically where I sell all of my products. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. So it's all woodworking stuff, and I would customize the sets with either sports teams or family names or custom tribal designs. I'm originally from Hawaii, so a lot of people used to play with these games, especially when COVID first hit. I guess a lot of people were stuck at home, so that's kind of funny. My business started booming, but my question was, since like it's woodworking and I'm a one man factory, so it takes up a lot of my time trying to build all of these boxes, and I was trying to outsource manufacturing for the longest time, but for some reason it's so hard to find other woodworkers out there who can, build these boxes for me and stuff, and then shipping the boxes, like they're so heavy too, so it got tedious for me to or expensive for me to keep going. So I'm trying to transition from this woodworking business to print on demand products. I want to, because I create my own art and stuff, so I want to sobriety with this new print on demand e-commerce business. I just wanted to know, I like that you guys touched on Shopify, Etsy, and Amazon. I've used Etsy before, but I wanted to know your thoughts on Shopify, Etsy, Amazon versus a personal website with either a membership or subscription platform, and tips on transitioning, like how I could go about transitioning from a woodworking business to a print on demand business, and which platform would best suit uh, unique art on print on demand
So
products.
let me
Thank you.
so let me ask just a quick clarifying question. Is your print on demand for the cornhole products, or
No,
is it totally different products, really just art?
totally different.
Because I think there are different platforms that you can list your art on. But do we have someone here who can give some feedback or who has some good understanding of how Christian could improve his distribution for print on demand?
Yeah, can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
It's a community.
thank you very much, colleague. Christine, I think you wanted to start up.
Can you speak a little louder? It's hard to hear you.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that you wanted to start your business and you are new at your business. As a startup, I always advise that don't go with big platforms because it might be a little bit costly for you. So I can suggest you that you can go with Wix, where you can connect your Printify. So Printify is a platform which will help you with print on demand. So they have a lot of products on which you can print your designs and then you can sell it off. And it can be connected with Wix, and you can sell a lot of products. So whatever you think, like caps, t-shirts, multiple accessories for male and female, is available on Printify, and that can be easily connected to Wix. And if you think about the cost, so recently we have done one website like that, and it cost around $1,000. That's all for 1 year. So I think as a startup, that is something which you can think about. And then if you really grow, then you can move to Shopify, which is a better platform. But again, Wix is something which is budget friendly right now for you. Mitesh here, Dan speaking.
Great. And Michelle, I know you have a lot of experience with print on demand as well.
Yes, actually, I think you were talking to me. Yes, I do. And we actually use a Shopify site and we hook up directly to Printify, which makes it exceedingly easy. I would say, I would suggest to you what I've learned is I suggest that you test the products because obviously it's like a marketplace, right? Basically, the way it works, it's not one back end vendor supplier. So you have a lot of choices, which is a good thing. Ergo, you have a lot of different price points and quality levels. So, what I would suggest to you is test some different products and vendors before you go guns blazing. I think you'll be happy that you did. For me, practically, I'll give you an example. We sell a lot of t-shirts, unisex and women's, and it vastly is different in terms of sizing, and also if you're just using their API, their sizing is oftentimes not very helpful. So you don't want to make a mistake where you get returns because you cannot return as the seller into those vendors unless it's a defective item. And even that, it's not easy. So really do a little bit deeper diving. And then if you find out one of those products is taking off, it's very easy via their interface to see who that backend vendor is. You should reach out to them and contact them because I think you said one of your goals, right, was to find reliable supplies. Once you see they have a good product and there's demand, and by the way, you're not paying anything to do that. So it's a fantastic way to get started and test. You can go directly to them and see if you can get more customized products if that's what you need, or maybe even a bigger discounts. I'm a big fan on the on demand for many reasons. I also feel it's more eco-friendly, by the way, but it's a great way to enter a market without having to put forth inventory price and test your concept. Michelle out.
Well,
Colin, do you mind if I hop in here and give
that's great.
Christian a
Go ahead.
couple of points?
Yeah, go ahead.
Appreciate it. Christian, I just wanted to throw two things at you. One, for the woodworking stuff, if you're not looking to fully like transition away from it, maybe take a look at trying to find an apprentice. There's got to be younger people that are looking to learn a decent skill, and it's just top of mind because I'm in the middle of building a fence right now. Not as detailed as the kind of stuff you do, but damn, man, having a second set of hands just makes things go so much faster. And then on the drop shipping, the clothing line, promoting sobriety, community, building a community is going to be probably the biggest driver of success for a business with that kind of focus and mission. Because I'm sure Michelle will tell you, anybody who's done e-commerce or drop shipping, there are basically it's gotten streamlined enough to set up a drop shipping e-commerce business that there's a lot of it out there. Shopify has this great report on kind of this all this research they did over the last year and a half, and there's just been this massive proliferation of e-commerce brands, and print on demand makes that easier than it has been in the past. So focusing on a mission driven, community led brand is a much I think should be a much bigger focus for you than necessarily what platform or what specific products you're going to sell. Those things are base level very important, they're foundational, but with something like sobriety, community is going to drive that revenue. It's not necessarily going to be if it's t-shirts or sweatshirts.
Nice. Thanks for the tips, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to mention something else that I did during the pandemic here because I couldn't get things out of China. It's just crazy pricing for shipping, etc. I actually looked into the community and it did take me some time. I wanted to make these specific higher end cat beds. What I did is I was able to find actually a little community of actually some elderly women that are seamstress that were just literally dying for some additional income. They're on like Social Security. And it ended up being like it's an amazing relationship, and they were so like excited to embrace the product. So I know you were thinking, or I think you were thinking, maybe like younger folks, but don't overlook the older community as well.
So, Michelle, your Meowingtons has over 1 million followers in the community. If you're a Christian who wants to build a community about sobriety and with the products, print on demand, the art, what would be some suggestions that have succeeded for you with your building your community?
Yeah, for me, what works is really being part of that community. I don't know if you are, but really embracing the community first before you ask them to follow you. I think that's really what it is about these days, being transparent and authentic. If you go into those communities, start adding value and participating, you will start to attract folks as well. Ask them for their opinions. Just really be who you want to attract. And if you are not who you want to attract, then maybe who's leading the community, I would consider having that person be that person. For us, we all love animals and we love cats, of course. But the young lady who runs our community, she is so entrenched in that community that people they just want to be in and following us because everything that she says and does and supports outside of us is really the antithesis of what we stand for. So that's what I would suggest.
Thanks. I'm definitely part of the community. I just recently started documenting my journey. Yeah, great tip. I'm definitely gonna go in and be a little more involved in the sobriety community.
Do we have
Appreciate it.
do we have anyone else on stage here who just wants to pop up and talk a little bit more about community? I know Devin, you kicked it off, but how does he get Facebook followers? How does he get link? I don't know. How do you get the followers? Is it providing content, building your own? Like I'm not. This is not my expertise. Norm.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways of doing it, but Michelle hit it on the head. You really have to be engaged before you get married. Get into other groups, start talking, don't promote. The worst thing you can do to kill a relationship is promote, but just more quality content, ask questions, just see the lingo of the community. If you're not familiar with a community, there's a whole different way of speaking. See how they're talking, get the tone of that, and then start engaging, start following, start if there's influencers within the community, start to go that way. I know that one thing you should stay away from, and I've made this mistake, is go really thin. Try to be everything to everybody on every social media platform. That's not the case. Pick one, two, three. Like maybe you're doing something on YouTube, something on TikTok, and something on Facebook. Not sure, but whatever your demographic is, I know the demographic that that's on Pinterest, and if I'm dealing with 35, 45-year-old women, I know that that would be the place where I would be marketing onto. And I also know that has the highest average order volume. So if I've got a product that could target that demographic, then that's where I'm going. But anyways, it's understanding your audience. And one of the things, I have nothing to do with this. I don't plug anything. But if you want a really quick way to understand your competitors, who's following your competitors, who the influencers of your competitors are, go to Rand Fishkin's app called Spark Toro. It's SPARK Toro. And it's about an 8-minute training, and you'll be able to dive in like an expert and understand the communities and grow your communities. Now, I like taking the Neil Patel approach, which is I'm not going to publish anything, like I'm talking about content wise, blog wise, unless it's the best out there. And if I see there's a lot of crap content out there, or my writers are crap and I want to spend $5 when I should be spending $250, I'll spend the $250 once a month, rather than try to do it, every other day. It's one piece of high quality content, and then you can take that and repurpose it a million times. But anyways, that's the way I would do it. Repurposing is key. And I wish my son was on, because some of the things that he's done with just our podcast and some of our brands that we have is just amazing.
Well, we'll have to have him on next time. Or Edna, any thoughts on this topic?
I'm fascinated, Colin, because this is not in my wheelhouse. This is not my zone of genius, and I'm enjoying everything that they're sharing because it not only applies to like ecom businesses, but it applies to other businesses as well when you utilize those strategies. And I just wanted to make that connection because I know we're talking about ecom stores, but I see so much strength and value in what's being shared that I wanted to make the connection that you can also do with what Michelle shared about community and getting involved. You can also utilize that in any other business as well. And yeah, Jeffrey, and I had a question, and it's something that Michelle said, that they were struggling with logistics coming out of China. And I've got a trucking companies, and I've got access to trucking companies in Mexico because we send LPG and fuel all the way down to Mexico. And so I've got so many people reaching out to me that want to do fulfillment all along the border because they're having to rethink their product strategy, especially with all the problems, issues, and costs coming with China. And so with that, I yield the mic and I pose that as a question, like what any suggestions, because I can provide the logistics, but I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm in oil and gas, so I'm trying to help someone problem solve. That's not my space, but always looking for opportunities. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, we're popcorn style here, so I love the pivot
So
here towards manufacturing. Jeff.
no, I don't have an answer for Edna on the manufacturing, but I wanted to just touch on one more thing on the whole content and community issue that I don't think was mentioned. One thing that's really important is developing your brand's voice and how you want your brand to be perceived. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of e-commerce businesses do is they accept all the defaults when they open up a Shopify store. One of the great things about these platforms like Shopify and others is they make it really easy to get started. They've got everything you need. They've got order confirmation emails set up. They've got shipping tracking emails set up. They've got everything all preset for you. And many people, too many people, in my opinion, leave the default settings in place. So you end up getting the exact same order confirmation email from 10 different companies because all they did was leave the default email in place and they never actually went in and thought about their brand and thought about their brand voice and thought about changing and customizing those messages to really reflect the brand that they want to represent to their customers. So my bit of advice there on that content and community building side is when you choose your platform, go into all the default settings and change them, customize them to be appropriate for your brand with your messaging. Have some fun with it. Some of the top e-commerce brands, when you get an email from them, you smile. Even if it's a simple order confirmation, it's done in the style of their brand. It makes you smile. It makes you feel some affinity to the brand. So don't leave the defaults in place. Go in and look at all of those customer touch points and customize them for your brand. That would be my advice.
Thanks for all of your advice, guys. I gotta hop on a call real quick. Just super grateful to be a part of Startup Club, and congratulations on anybody else starting a new e-commerce business. And hope you guys do well in all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. All right, Edna, you had something you're.
Yeah, Colin, it wasn't necessarily, my question wasn't necessarily about manufacturing and solving the issue of manufacturing because we have already tapped into the manufacturing. What we're now problem solving for is the warehousing, and y'all call it the 3PL. So 3PL fulfillment, because we still want to take advantage of Section 321 taxes coming out of Mexico. And so I know that Norm, he may or may not know someone or have contacts or can help with that part in that aspect.
Yes, strangely enough, yes, I can help you with that. This is something that Afalabi, he's been on here a few times. Colin Afalabi is my partner over at my sourcing company, but he's been working at building a North American directory. And it's spread out. It started as a very small operation. Now it's a couple of people involved, Tim Jordan, Amy Weiss, who probably a lot of people on this call know. We have it's a trade show in Mexico in April. It's going to be South American, Central American, Mexican suppliers and manufacturers. Alibaba is going to be our sponsor. But if anybody's interested, that's something that's happening. And there's so much opportunity for products to come up, but you have to know the little bits of insight. Edna, one of the things I could have you reach out, or I could have my partner reach out to you if you like to talk to you about some of this, and they know the insights of the ins and outs of bringing products in or out to Mexico.
I love it. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
And Norm, like, how hard is it to get a manufacturer in the United States, in Mexico, or in China, or Poland? Because obviously, it's one thing, like what Christian was talking about, was building and designing it himself. But at a certain point, if you want to hit the volume and you really want to make profit, you need to find some way to outsource that. And I just wanted you to see if you could talk a little bit about that. I know,
Yeah.
Michelle, you've had experience in that area as well. Not certain, Devin or Matesh, if you have, but we'll start with you, Norm.
Okay, China has it down pat. The problem is supply chain is horrible. The freight costs are horrible. You can look to other countries. Like if I look at Korea right now, Korea is awesome for cosmetics. That's one product. You don't have the Trump tax. So it's very inexpensive to get the product. It's higher. It's a higher cost of manufacturing, but it's cheaper to get in now. It actually equals to what was coming in from China. And I would trust a Korean cosmetic company more than I would somebody you find on Alibaba. India is opening up and they're trying to expand more and more. In the US, there are some fantastic manufacturers. The problem is the US is just getting used to eComm. They're not used to accepting 250, 500, 1,000, even 2,500 units. They want big product. That's been the issue. One of the things, there is a workaround when you're talking to a US manufacturer, and you could go to a trade show where they all are there. They are, you can talk to them, but if you show that you are a brand building to succeed, or you are a successful brand and you're bringing a product to market, you might have a chance in some companies that need 10,000 units as an opening order, which I would never do. But US is a tougher go. And this is why we're trying to build a more of a database. And believe it or not, Alibaba is starting to do that as well. You're starting to see more manufacturers come on Alibaba, even though you think Alibaba's over in China. In Mexico, and I'll tell you, in Colombia, I was in the EVA game. That's a foam game. And I brought over containers and containers of EVA foam. We went to China because we thought it was I recently saw a father and son start up an EVA foam company in Colombia. Better pricing than China, no problems getting it up to the US. And I would never have known about them. I ran into them at a trade show. And the actual product itself is as good or better quality than would be over in Columbus. So all that's happening right now is all these South American companies that were dealing with South Americans. If you're in Brazil, which is another awesome place to get product, they were dealing within Brazil. So now they're seeing that there is the opportunity in the US and they're starting to come up. So it's challenging, but one of the things that you can do, it's a pain in the butt. Go into Google, white label X, North America, US, Brazil, and just Mexico, and see what comes up. There's not one big database right now except for Alibaba, and you can definitely go there. You just have to know the right questions to ask when you're going to these different countries.
Oh, that's great. And so, Norm, how do people find these rep firms, these manufacturers? You mentioned Alibaba. Can you go to the website on Alibaba? Do you need to go to a trade show? What are the ways you can actually find someone to do this manufacturing for your?
There's a variety of different ways. So trade shows are awesome. If you can find a trade show in the US, like ASD is a huge retail trade show that's happening in Vegas in February, March. Yeah, to 26th to the 2nd. That's a ton of suppliers that go there. And you can check that out. Or if there's organizations, associations, check out an association that might be doing wood manufacturing or whatever it is. It could be bottles, it could be shampoo. Tons of manufacturers in US that do beauty products, supplements. But anyways, all you would do is check associations, check out trade shows. Then you could also, what was I going to say? The sourcing agents. So if you take a look at good quality sourcing agents, so you can just go onto the internet, check sourcing agent, see what comes up, and then talk to them directly and see if they do specialize in Mexico or in these different types of products that you're looking for. If I was looking for medical devices, I wouldn't be getting a sourcing agent to do baby toys unless they knew about that. It's a whole other breed. So sourcing agents is a new, really great way to let them do the legwork. You're going to pay for it, but they do the legwork for you. They find the product and they come back to you with all the information. Those are a few that I would talk to. Colin, unfortunately, I've got a podcast that I gotta be on in 5 minutes.
No issue, but you get out of here. I'm going to ask. You're done now anyway. All right,
Thank
Michelle.
you, Norman.
Yeah, Michelle, can you just give us a couple of tips about working with manufacturers overseas? What are the do's and don'ts?
All right, so great question. It's really hard if you're a small person and you're trying to do overseas sourcing because you're not there to see the quality and oversee the product. So I would say the first thing is expect that it's going to take a lot longer than you expected to. Other than that, I would also say you need to, it sounds easy to say, but you really have to find somebody that you can work with. And for me, what that means is someone who is highly communicative and obviously who's going to be trustworthy. So I think it's worth it if you can go meet these folks once you decide that you're going to order products and do the whole 9 yards. Figure out how they like to best communicate. So, for example, what we've learned through the years is that folks in China like to use WeChat. So instead of asking them to be having conversations in the middle of our day or using email, we have adapted to what's convenient for them. It goes a long way. So we use WeChat. We talk with them in the middle of our night, which is in the middle of their day. We make sure from the beginning that they understand they're going to have to send us lots of samples right along the process, as well as we've learned, you just learn this with experience, just like what you have to say when you're describing what you want for the product. For me personally, I found the more specific I could be, or if there's some kind of sample I can send, it saves a heck of a lot of time. If you're too open and vague, your timelines are going to go through the sky. So what I've found even so is that you should still expect about 6 months. If you at all can go arrange to make a visit to the factory during the time when an actual prototype is ready before they want to start production, it really can save you a lot of heartache, time, and money. Because the last thing you want to do is get something shipped and then it's not good, or there's some problem with packaging. Like for us, we had a lot of issues with one of our manufacturers in terms of packaging. Even though we had lots of conversation afterwards, it was obvious that their definition of packing a product really well so it didn't get damaged was not what we expected. I think the postal system, whatever deliveries, is a lot different in China than it is in the US. It's mostly like couriers there. When I say couriers, very localized and somebody in their scooter dropping something off, not like going through many trucks and warehouses and being thrown on pallets and on FedEx trucks and whatnot. It's really important to have that open line of communication. There are obviously also language differences. So we bring in people that know the language. It's just there's a lot of things to think of, but for me, if I had to say one recurring theme, it's heavily around communication and relationship.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's awesome. And I know we're running out of time. We're going to probably go a little bit over here. But the last category that we wanted to take on here was marketing advertising. You've got, let's say it was Christian, I know he's off stage now, but he's got his cornhole business. He's got a manufacturer. He's worked it all out, and he's got a website. He's even working on his community. But what is next? Like, how does he take that product and get buyers? And what are the different avenues? Jeff, you're our CMO on stage. Do you want to kick it off with us? I know there's Google, I know there's Facebook, and there's other methods as well, but why don't you take it here? You're the expert.
I don't know about
TV?
that, but the first thing you have to understand before you do any paid advertising is really understand what your actual costs are and what your margins are, because you really need to understand what is going to be a reasonable customer acquisition cost that's going to allow you to grow your business and be profitable and not go under because you're acquiring customers for way more than the customer is worth to you. So you have to have a good understanding of the economics of your product. And if you're importing products from overseas, as Michelle was talking about, you have to take into consideration all those import costs and everything else. So step one is to really understand the economics of your product sourcing so you can understand what kind of a marketing budget you can build. Obviously, we've grown paw.com over the years heavily focused on social media advertising. So the large majority of our advertising spend over the years has been in Facebook and Instagram and some Pinterest, and that's been very effective for us. We have a higher price item. The dog beds typically sell around $129 and up, so we had some room to spend and have a reasonable customer acquisition cost. So you need to understand that outside of paid media, there's a lot you can do in social media and with content marketing that doesn't necessarily cost you money, but can drive a lot of awareness and traffic to your sites. And that's going to vary by whatever vertical you're in. Obviously, today with social media, with influencers, if you can get some raving fans out there, if you can get your product into the hands of other people who are vocal and who have their own followings and their own audience, that can be very cost effective. There are a number of e-commerce brands that have really taken off because someone with a large following liked their brand. So sometimes it's not a paid opportunity. Sometimes it can be organic if you can get your product into the hands of someone who really likes it, really appreciates it, and can speak to the brand. There are a lot of different things you can follow to get the ball rolling, but having great content, packaging is important too. Having that unboxing experience be something people like, then people tend to share. That's another more cost-effective way. So instead of paying people to advertise your product, if your product comes in nice packaging, if it has some cool stuff inside of it, maybe you put in a sticker or some other unexpected moment of delight, a UMOD, as Colin likes to refer to it as, sticking a little sticker in the package, something that's going to get someone excited, something that they might take a picture of and share or slap on their laptop or back of their car to help promote your brand. So all of those things are organic ways to grow your brand and market and draw attention to it. Obviously, there's a million things you can do. And one of the things I've learned in 40 years of marketing is it's never one thing, too. So you have to do a lot of these things. It's hard to just hang your hat on one thing and say, this is going to be my marketing strategy, and this one thing is going to drive all of our sales and customer acquisition. That's rarely the case. It's usually a combination of all of these things working together to really drive that traffic to your site and drive those customers to your product. So hopefully that's helpful, Colin.
No, that's great. And I don't know about you, but this was an episode. This last hour was very intense, a lot of information. I will go back and listen to the replay, either on Clubhouse, or you can actually, if you want to listen to it on startup.club, you can just go to the website. We've archived hundreds now of episodes from Startup Club. I think we now are at about 40 or 42 or somewhere thereabouts
Hey,
with this.
Colin,
Yeah.
this is episode 44.
I told you I was guessing. I
Yeah,
knew you had
like,
the
can
number.
you believe it?
So this is our 44th time we've run the Serial Entrepreneur Club on Fridays at 2 o'clock Eastern. Please join us every Friday. If you miss it, you can now get it on podcast. You can go to your Apple iTunes, type in, or your Apple podcast and type in Serial Entrepreneur Club. And there are so many great episodes. Or just go to startup.club and listen to them. They're live. Now, let me just tell you about next week. We had Jeffrey Moore crossing the chasm 2 weeks ago. We have next week Vern Harnish, who's an expert in his own. He's been on this show before, but he's also coming on with John Mullins, who's wrote a number of best-selling books, including The Customer Funded Startup. He is an award-winning teacher, scholar. He's probably the most foremost thought leaders on entrepreneurship in the world. He teaches at the University of London. And he's coming on next Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern. Another one of those shows not to be missed. Sorry, just clarification, the London Business School, not the University of London. Just to clarify, sorry about that. But another one of those episodes not to be missed, the customer funded startup. We all talk about venture capital. We all talk about raising money. But what if our customers paid us to scale? And that's happening next Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. Thank you very much, everyone. Devin, Edna, everyone on stage, really appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the session, please follow the people on stage, and we will see you next week.